Countess of Chester Hospital is building a new maternity unit, and they need to build a temporary car park. The site they have chosen is the field in front of the 1829 building, a field that has many memories for me, as I nursed at this hospital for 50 years. This picture shows the entrance to the site before the Countess of Chester was built. The building on the right is the lodge. The 1829 building was the first block that was built at the new asylum, which at its peak housed 2,000 patients. They enjoyed garden parties, fetes and sporting events on the field, and these are the memories I would like to show you. The sign, which is still in situ, records the planting of the trees planted that celebrated the mental hospital's 100-year anniversary of 1929. As you can see, the main buildings and annex areas have now been demolished and replaced with a large housing estate. It is now the beginning of April and work has commenced digging up our field, but I am assured it will be returned to its natural green state in 3 years' time when the maternity hospital is built. In the 1950s, the field was used as a vegetable patch. When I commenced as a nurse at the age of 15, the hospital was mainly self-sufficient, producing its own vegetable and fruits. It had 2 farms, 3 kitchens and a patient workforce called the barragangs, which worked in the fields and farms. Our men would have cleared this field with their spades and shovels in no time. We also worked with the gardeners, the laundry staff and sewing room. This picture shows the Diva Rose Queen, an annual event held on the patient's fete day. Notice the cricket pavilion and large greenhouses in the background. The Mayor of Chester or the Sheriff attended these events and helped with judging the Rose Queen together with the matron. All the staff were involved in organising the fete: nurses, caterers, gymnasts, chaplains, plumbers, bricklayers, tinsmiths, just to name a few. The man sitting in the chair at the end of this clip is Jack Beckett. He was the electrician who organised the PA, etc. As they clear away our paths, let us not forget the staff and nurses who worked here. Especially remembered are the patients, of which 10% had lived here for 40 years and had especially enjoyed these opportunities to attend a fete or the many trips out on the hospital bus. The next clip shows the balloon race and the military band marching across our cricket pitch, but everybody enjoyed the band. You can dig away our past, but you can't dig away our memories. Patients loved watching the horses. Years ago we had 2 Shire horses at the Page Farm and a bull, which is often seen being taken for a walk by the farmer. I was saddened to learn that some people didn't even know there was a mental hospital here. People asked me who were nursed here. In 1829, the asylum opened with 90 patients on 90 acres of land. By 1929, there were 1,574 patients and 249 acres of land. For those interested, the veranda next to the phlebotomy department, 1829 building, was a female ward and nursed TB patients in that veranda. We were not, as some people thought, attendants, but qualified nurses, and we cared for our own physically sick patients. We had an operating theatre in the annex, and also our own path lab and pharmacy. In the early days, the male and female patients and staff were segregated, but integrated in the later years, around the 1960s. There was also a main hall where weekly concerts, dances and a cinema show occurred. Unfortunately, the hall burnt down in 1971. During the war, the annex part of the hospital was used as a military hospital for wounded soldiers and civilians. In 1960, the Moston Military Hospital up the road became redundant and was offered for civilian use. The Chester group of hospitals was anxious to expand the maternity services, but the Diva Hospital was so overcrowded it won the right to move some services there. The life of Moston Hospital was originally intended to be 10 years. It actually lasted 22 years. I have been asked what type of person was nursed here. Well, in the 50s when I started, the old Mental Health Act was just being changed into the 1959 Act. Patients before were certified or voluntary, and the certified ones, there was no specific time date how long they would be staying. The patients who were admitted were either short-term and admission onto the annex wards, or if they had chronic illnesses, they were admitted to long-stay wards, which were mainly in the main building. The specialities of some of the wards were treating people with epilepsy, so they had epileptic ward, 30 or 40 people on those. They had a refractory ward with padded cell, and people were quite unpredictable and dangerous. But remember, there was no medication of any note in those days. There were people with severe learning difficulties, and they were classed as subnormal or severely subnormal, and before the new acts they were called idiots. But all that's from the old time. Today there's a modern unit called Beaumere, which is just off where the new hospital's been built, and basically long-term patients don't exist. There may be revolving door patients. That means they go in and come out and go in and all this kind of thing. But basically, some of the patients of the old days, they were there 40 years, and it was the same right across the country, if not the world.